The Pump Genius makes it super easy to configure a wide variety of pumping applications. You can use it to configure simple PID applications where you need to maintain things like system pressure or temperature or flow, or even do things like tank filling applications. Or you can use it to configure more complex pumping applications with multiple drives, or even systems with a single drive and multiple contactors so the drive can rotate through the pumps to ensure even wear. It can even handle deragging, sleep boost, alarms, pipe charging, dry pump protection, and pump protection via an external sensor. The Pump Genius is really comprehensive, but it's done in a way that you don't have to be a drive expert or a PLC guy. Just fill in the blanks and you're good to go. In this video, we'll set up the usual motor parameters and build and install a version of the Pump Genius that's customized to work with our exact drive and firmware version. In part 2, we'll configure the Pump Genius parameters and download them to the drive. And in part 3, we'll do a live demo with a special focus on all of the amazing Pump Genius monitoring dialogues where you can see everything that's going on in your pumping application. Now we'll do the exact same example as we did in the PID Quick Start videos where we wanted to use a single drive to automatically change the motor's speed to maintain a system pressure of 6 psi regardless of how many valves we opened. Which means we'll be using the exact same hardware as described in the PID Quick Start hardware video, so I'm not going to re-describe that here, and I'm also not going to get too deep into any of the parameter descriptions. We already did that in the PID Quick Start parameter video. That will help expedite this video. Now there is one change. The Pump Genius requires the auto manual switch, if you choose to use one, to be on digital input 3. We did use it, but we had it on digital input 2 in the previous video, so I went ahead and moved that wire for this video. We also used the remote HMI in those videos. Now that uses a serial port, but we're going to need that serial port to load and monitor the Pump Genius, so we won't be using the remote HMI in this video. Now could I have used a different I/O module with 2 serial ports, or use the USB module? Sure, but I'm intentionally using the I/O module that comes with the drive because that'll be the most common case, and it only has 1 serial port. Now it's important to understand that the Pump Genius uses a different PID implementation than the soft PLC version we did in the PID videos. It uses the exact same concepts, so it'll look real familiar, but this version uses different soft PLC parameter numbers. Just keep that in mind. Okay, here we go. I reset the drive parameters to factory default and a drive soft PLC to the default app to give us a clean slate and so you know exactly where I'm starting from. Step 1. Motor parameters. Use the drive startup menu to walk you through setting up your motor. It configures things like overload settings behind the scenes based on the motor you specify. These are the basic parameters for my motor. Yours will probably be different. Step 2. Build a version of the Pump Genius to work with your specific drive and then load it into the drive. The Pump Genius is part of the WLP Ladder Logic Editor from WEG. You can download WLP for free from Automation Direct by going to any of the CFW500 drives and scrolling down to the Support Resources section where you'll find the WPS application along with firmware updates and EDS files and sample programs, etc. Download and install this guy. In WLP, you don't need to create a new project. You can just go directly to Tools, Application, CFW500, Create, Pump Genius. We're doing a single pump, so we choose Simplex. Give it a project name, but don't use any spaces. The WLP software doesn't like that. And ignore these for now. Okay, it wants to update the Pump Genius project from the WLP version it was created with to the version of WLP we're using. We definitely want to do that. Well, since we just created a Pump Genius project, we now see it over here in the configuration wizards. Double-click to open that, and we see we have a simplex version of the Pump Genius. Perfect. That's where we'll configure the Pump Genius parameters in the next video, but first we have to get the Pump Genius into the drive soft PLC, so cancel out of that. To build the Pump Genius for our drive's firmware version, go to Build, Compile. Wait for it to finish, and no hits, no runs, no errors. Perfect. Close that. Well, great. we now have a version of the Pump Genius that'll work on our drive with our drive-specific firmware version. So now we need to send it to the DriveSoft PLC. To download this to the drive, WLP and the drive have to use the same communication protocol. So we go to Communicate, Configuration. I'm using this USB to 45 converter, and I see in the PC's device manager it's plugged into this COM port. So we put that here. My drive is already set up with these COM parameters. Remember, COM parameters survive factory resets. So we just need to make sure WLP matches those. 9600 baud, no parity, 8 bits, 1 stop bit. Now my USB to 45 cable struggled with faster baud rates, so that's why I'm using the 9600 baud. If you're using the drive's USB COM module, you would select 6 or 7 for parameter 312. If you're using the 485 module that has 2 serial ports, then set parameter 312 to a 2 to use port 1, or a 6 or a 7 to use port 2. Okay, we have a Pump Genius customized for our drive's soft PLC, and comms are set up. So now we transfer it to the soft PLC. But before doing that, if we go to parameter 1000, we see there is an app installed and it's currently stopped. That would be the default app that we loaded at the beginning of this video. If you have an app and it's not stopped, well then go to parameter 1001 and enter a 0 to stop it, just to be sure we're not interrupting anything. To download the Pump Genius application to the soft PLC, go to Communicate, Download. We want to download the application. Looks like WLP needs to update some stuff, so we'll rebuild those modules and update it. This is all the modules to download, so we hit Start. Wait for it to transfer. And it was successful. Perfect. The Pump Genius is now on the drive. It asks us if we want to enable it. Normally we would say yes here, but I'm going to hit no and then do it manually in part 3 to serve as a reminder to check the status of the application before using it. Take a break, let your head clear, and then join me in part 2 where we'll do that configuration and then try it on our hardware. Meanwhile, click here to learn more about the WEG family of variable frequency drives. Click here to learn about AutomationDirect's free award-winning support options, and click here to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you'll be notified when we publish new videos.